Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says Gaza wants Hamas to vanish.
If we disarm Hamas, whether with an international force or by any other means, yes, I see a different future for Gaza. And it's the one remaining step. Everybody understands that. I think Hamas understands it. That's why they don't want to do it, because, you know, the point here is not to negotiate with Hamas. That's not the job, their job. Their job is to vanish, stop, no more. And you know who wants it more than anyone else? The people of Gaza.
The people of Gaza. Our former State Department official, Christian Whiton, joins us this morning. Christian, great to see you. What do you make of that? I mean, realistically, can Hamas just simply vanish?
Realistically, no. I think realistically they agreed to this peace plan in bad faith, never planned to disappear, and will have to be dislodged using force. The big question is if anyone who is going to do that, the international force that Netanyahu just alluded to is elusive, and it'll probably come down to the Israeli military. But this is an organization, these are diehards who live to fight Israel. They are proxies of the Iranian government and of the Muslim Brotherhood, even those are two different branches of Islam, of political Islam, but they agree to destroy Israel, so they're not going to go away on their own.
No, I think that's clear. Next one for you. U.S. Central Command says American forces killed or captured nearly 25 ISIS fighters in the Syria strikes. We've been ramping up our attacks on ISIS. Is this the start of a wider offensive, do you think?
I don't think so. There's not a big sign that ISIS is resurgent in a broad sense. They've taken advantage of a vacuum in Syria as the new leader there consolidates control. You recall he deposed the Assad regime that had governed Syria for decades. You know, if we recall ISIS at its peak, which was actually one of the factors that helped bring Donald Trump to power in 2016, where it controlled Syria and big parts of Iraq, there's just nothing like that that seems to be on the horizon. So clearly Trump is not going to walk away from this mission. Clearly he wants CENTCOM to be on top of it. Incidentally, this is an instance where Syria and Israel and Saudi Arabia and all of our allies are actually in favor of what we're doing. So it'll be a limited mission, I think.
If we are seeing a little bit of a resurgence of ISIS, Christian, who's to blame for that?
Well, part of it is letting down the guard, but I think the big resurgence in political Islam isn't coming from the Middle East. Of course, you'll always have Iran there driving this. This is what they do. They came to power in 1979, taking American diplomats hostage in order to implement their version of political Islam, awfully similar to the Muslim Brotherhoods. But it's the Europeans, it's the wokesters, it's the people who are opposed to Western civilization. It's the people who allowed uncontrolled immigration of, frankly, there's certain Muslims who would perhaps immigrate perfectly into Western civilization in the United States and the UK and France and Germany, but there are others who don't. And that's where you're seeing the surge of anti-Semitism, the recent slaughter of Jews in Australia. So if I were to point a finger, I'd point it to the wokesters in the West rather than the Middle East.
Very good. One more for you, Christian. Iran, talking of which, threatening a harsh and regrettable response, it says, to any action following the U.S. Trump's warning to Tehran and Hamas. Could we see a second attack on Iran's nuke facilities in the near future, or are they just going to kind of back down, which I find hard to believe? But what say you?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to back down. You know, the president's been pretty clear that he thinks we really set back Iran's program. Those centrifuges are awfully sensitive, so if you can get a bomb close to them, they're hard to reconstitute. I think the president and the Israelis are more worried, and frankly, again, the Saudis and our Arab partners, worried about the ballistic missile program. And Iran, you know, the word was if we ever struck Iran, they would just light the Middle East on fire. There'd be a regional war, and Donald Trump disproved that received wisdom from the foreign policy establishment. So this might be something the Israelis can take care of themselves if it's just ballistic missiles and not a buried nuclear program deep, deep, deep underground. But Iran's ability to retaliate, I mean, their proxies are under fire, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthi, and their ability to strike is limited.
And also, just to finish this off, Christian, they know in Donald Trump, if they do cross the line, he will respond.
Yes, I think that's right. The reaction was limited last time, some B-2 strikes, some deep bunker buster bombs.
Yeah.
But as we're seeing with the maritime interdiction of Venezuelan, Russian, Iranian-linked ships in the Pacific and Atlantic near Venezuela and Colombia, I think Donald Trump has a lot of screws he can still turn if he wants to.
He certainly does. It's going to be an interesting new year, as always. Christian Whiton, great to see you. Thanks for joining us, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, Ashley. Thank you.